Faced with a zombie horde swarming like a tidal wave, most people would be running for their lives, wishing they had an extra pair of legs to help them escape. But there are always those who defy expectations, like a group of daredevils who seize the opportunity to start a zombie extermination business, making a killing, literally and figuratively. This proves that it's not the lack of money-making opportunities, but a lack of creative thinking that holds us back. In this episode, we're diving into the Cuban zombie comedy, Juan of the Dead. Our protagonist, Juan, is a middle-aged man who's seen better days. He's a bit of a failure, drifting aimlessly through life like an unemployed loafer. Post-divorce, his ex-mother-in-law looks down on him, and his daughter is fed up with his lazy ways. Despite his shortcomings, Juan is a good-hearted guy. He often steps in to help his neighbors, even if his motives are questionable, like helping elderly women home just to cop a feel, all under the guise of finding them charming. However, Juan's mundane life is about to be turned upside down. One day, Juan and his best friend Lazaro set out on a fishing trip, but they end up catching more than just fish. They reel in a sailor's corpse. To their shock, the corpse suddenly springs to life, claws flailing. Terrified, Lazaro reacts instinctively and spears the zombie's head with his fishing harpoon. They don't yet realize they're dealing with a zombie outbreak. They think they've accidentally killed someone. Panicking, they decide to keep quiet and hastily leave the scene. Little do they know, the sea is already teeming with zombies, and a virus outbreak is about to engulf all of Cuba. Just as Juan returns home, his elderly neighbor calls him over, worried that her husband seems to have died. Juan assumes the old man has simply passed out and tries to lighten the mood with a joke. "Your wife is about to run off with someone else." But no sooner do the words leave his mouth than the old man slowly lifts his head. As Juan turns to leave, the previously paralyzed old man miraculously stands up. Before they can marvel at what seems like a medical miracle, the old man lunges at Juan, seemingly intent on attacking the man who just threatened to steal his wife. Shocked, Juan grapples with the old man while shouting to the old lady to call for help. Soon, Lazaro and Vladi arrive, but even with the three of them, they struggle to subdue the old man. In a fit of frustration, Lazaro raises his harpoon, ready to finish the job for good. Juan quickly intervenes, leading to a comedic scuffle. Amidst the chaos, the harpoon accidentally fires, impaling both the old man and the old lady in one shot. Strangely, despite the severe injury, the old man remains unfazed, still aggressively coming after them. This bizarre sight sends chills down their spines, prompting them to believe the old man is possessed. In a desperate attempt to exorcise the demon, they stuff the old man's mouth with garlic. When that proves ineffective, Juan grabs a crucifix, chanting prayers. Frustrated by the lack of results, Juan finally swings the crucifix and stabs the old man's head, discovering that only a headshot stops him. Under the cover of darkness, they dispose of the bodies. Meanwhile, emergency news reports on TV attribute recent unrest to a Western capitalist conspiracy. This leads to massive street protests the next day, with Juan, Lazaro, and Vladi joining the crowds. However, they soon find themselves in the midst of a full-blown zombie outbreak. Zombies mingled among the fleeing crowd, mercilessly hunting down any humans they could find. The once peaceful city had turned into a hellish nightmare, with screams, cries for help, and explosions echoing everywhere. In this dire situation, Juan's first thought was of his daughter, Camila. He rushed back to his mother-in-law's house, only to find her already transformed into a zombie. Trapped on the balcony by a horde of zombies, Juan didn't give up. Desperate and determined to find his daughter, he fought fiercely. Fortunately, the sheer number of zombies caused the iron railing to give way, providing Juan a chance to climb upwards. Just when he was at his wit's end, a hand reached out and pulled him to safety. It was Camila. His daughter, impressed by Juan's bravery, began to see him in a new light. With renewed resolve, Juan came up with a bold plan. He decided to recruit a team of brave individuals to start a business helping survivors by clearing out zombies for a fee. Charging $50 a head, Juan believed that if they could successfully establish a market, the business would thrive. However, as with any venture, the competence of his team was crucial. Juan needed skilled and fearless people to join his cause. Thus began the first trial mission of Juan's zombie clearing company. The team Juan assembled was a motley crew of uniquely talented individuals. La China, a dancer skilled in long-range attacks with her slingshot. El Primo, a brute force attacker who, due to his fear of blood, fought with his eyes covered. Vladi, a crack shot with a baseball bat, and Lazaro, who wielded two machetes with deadly precision, cutting down zombies without hesitation. Juan, the Cuban Bruce Lee, rounded out the team with his all-around combat prowess. Despite being a hastily assembled group, they proved to be a formidable zombie-clearing squad. Their effectiveness in dealing with zombies was impressive, and their initial marketing efforts quickly paid off. Word spread through the neighborhood, and they soon landed their first job. An elderly landlady needed help because her tenants had turned into zombies, posing a serious threat to her safety. This was a golden opportunity to establish their reputation. As they began to strategize for the mission, chaos struck when La China screamed at the sight of a cockroach. The well-planned, systematic approach they had discussed turned into an impromptu melee. Misfortune never comes alone. Just as the team was surrounded by the zombie horde, a sudden power outage plunged the hall into darkness. Intense fighting ensued, but fortunately, the team's training paid off, and their coordinated efforts shone through. When the lights finally came back on, the hall was littered with defeated zombies. Unfortunately, the landlord lady, their client, got accidentally killed in the chaos. Talk about bad luck, working for free on this one. To keep expanding their business, they started handing out flyers around the neighborhood, and soon enough, their company was booming. Compared to their previous aimless lives, things couldn't be better. However, that evening, after finishing a job, they were stopped by a group of soldiers. The military was sweeping the city for survivors and needed more hands to fight the zombies. Juan and his team were essentially drafted on the spot. To ensure none of them were bitten, the soldiers made them strip for inspection. To prevent any escape attempts, they were handcuffed in pairs. But during transport, one of the survivors suddenly turned into a zombie, biting the poor soul next to him and throwing the truck into chaos. Amidst the pandemonium, Juan and his crew seized the opportunity to escape the military's grasp. However, shortly after escaping, Juan realized that La China, who was still handcuffed to him, was on the verge of turning into a zombie. It turned out that he had been bitten during the chaos the previous night. This was a real predicament since they hadn't managed to unlock the handcuffs. As La China's hunger grew unbearable, Juan's opportunistic and somewhat sleazy nature kicked in. He started dancing the tango with the zombifying La China, skillfully keeping him at bay. With a final dramatic spin and leap, Juan managed to push La China off the building. Fortunately, Vladi and Juan's daughter arrived just in time with a bottle of lubricant, freeing Juan from the handcuffs. Their brief moment of relief was short-lived, as the number of zombies continued to grow while the number of survivors dwindled. With no more zombie-killing jobs coming in, their once thriving business came to a standstill. As the city teetered on the brink of complete collapse, the group was forced to plan their escape. After much effort, they finally reached the refuge site mentioned on the news, only to find it abandoned. Unconvinced, El Primo decided to forcibly break open the locked doors of the refuge. But his reckless actions had dire consequences. As soon as the doors burst open, a horde of zombies poured out, revealing that the refuge had long been overrun. The unlucky group soon found themselves trapped on a playground, surrounded by layers upon layers of zombies. They were completely at a loss, staring death in the face. Just when all hope seemed lost, a heavily armed pickup truck came speeding towards them, honking its horn. A sword tied to a steel cable shot out, skewering a zombie and pinning it to a post. What followed was an iconic zombie-killing scene. The pickup truck pulled the cable taut, using the impaled zombie as a pivot point, and started mowing down the surrounding zombies in a circular sweep. This impressive maneuver left Juan and his group utterly astonished, realizing there are always more skilled survivors out there. The kind stranger driving the truck helped them escape the scene. To ensure a successful evacuation from the city on the brink of collapse, the stranger had a detailed plan and enthusiastically invited the group to join his team, emphasizing unity and cooperation. However, in a moment of excitement, Lazaro accidentally killed the kind stranger with a harpoon. The stranger hadn't even finished explaining his plan. Nevertheless, the living couldn't afford to be hindered by the dead. Juan quickly came up with an idea. Using everything available in the garage, they modified a vehicle into an amphibious boat car. Early the next morning, Juan and Lazaro headed to the seaside. After a fierce battle, they managed to clear out the horde of zombies lingering on the shore, piling the bodies into a ramp for the boat car to use to launch into the ocean. Just as they were about to begin their escape, Juan heard a cry for help. Following the sound, he found a young boy. As they were about to escape together, a zombie grabbed the boy, pulling him down. With no other choice, Juan engaged in a fight with the zombie. From a higher position, Juan pushed the zombie into a water pipe post. Not satisfied, he landed several more blows on the zombie. Then, Juan quickly carried the boy to the seaside, just as their modified boat car arrived. The vehicle safely landed on the water, and Juan placed the rescued boy onto the boat. However, when it was his turn, Juan silently pushed the boat car into the ocean, deciding to stay behind. This land was his home, the place that had nurtured him, and he loved it deeply. Even if the entire world abandoned it, he was determined to fight for it until the end. After ensuring his daughter and friends were safely away, Juan returned to the shore. Behind him stood a horde of zombies, packed tightly together. Filled with determination and passion, Juan struck Bruce Lee's iconic pose, his defiant attitude insulting the zombie horde, prompting them to launch a fierce attack. This time, Juan was certain he would survive once more.